All right. Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I want to thank Jackie. Jeff, thank you so much, and Alliance for Ontario for bringing me out here. I'm from the woke coast. Used to be called the left coast, but that's not even appropriate anymore. When I say radical left coast, that would be better. All right, I just want to bring you over here for a second before I start at this particular billboard right here, okay? See how we protect the dolphins and the elephants and the puppies and forget about the humans? Well, when it comes to euthanasia, it's exactly the same thing. See, we have no-kill animal shelters, but we're not allowed to have no-kill human shelters. See, because we're facing what I consider to be an anti-human movement, self-loathing human movement. This is something that we're going to have to stop. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take determination and grit. And a couple crazy people like myself standing on the front lines trying to protect your life. So let's talk about how to protect each other from MAiD. So of course, I'm sure everybody in this room knows about MAiD. Some people still think it's about letting a cleaning woman come around to your house when you're talking to senior citizens, honestly. So when they're offered MAiD, they say, that would be nice for a change. But no, this is the most insidious thing, I think, that human beings have ever thought of. And let me tell you, this is not, we've seen this before. So they brought this horrible thing in back in 2016 under C14, right? Just for people who had a foreseeable death, who were terminal. And this was actually an amendment to the criminal code, which allowed doctors and nurse practitioners to non-culpably homicide you. But what we've quickly found out is that physicians and nurse practitioners can introduce MAiD to the patient, even though it has not been asked for by people, and even when there are other medical treatments available. Take a little look at this graph, okay? Look at that upward, right? This basically says that there's a 30% increase in euthanasia year after year in Canada. Well, these are quite startling results, actually, because any of you who are involved with business, you know that a 30% return on your investment year after year is actually not even possible. I wish, but somehow, killing Canadians is extremely successful. In fact, at this point, there's been more Canadians mated than have been killed in the Second World War. See, we only killed the 43,000 Canadians during the Second World War, but we're already at the 63,000 mark when it comes to euthanizing us. Which is why I say that MAiD is a predatory regime against the Canadian people. Why do I say that? Because we are actually dealing with an empire that has come against us. Now, when you talk about an empire, what does that make you think about? Well, for one thing, power and money and this single-mindedness and this efficiency and this hegemony. And yes, in fact, Empire MAiD is a behemoth. It is a behemoth against us. And see these little hands here? Well, that's us, right? That's the volunteers, basically. That's what we have to draw on Team Life side of the aisle here. People who care, standing up against a giant. And why do I say Empire MAiD? Well, let's see who's involved in this. We've got the national lobby groups, we've got governments, ministries, bureaucracies, we've got the judiciary, we've got all these not-for-profits. We have unlimited access to places where they will kill us, and we have a very, very potent narrative to just prop all of this up, keep it going. We want to talk about one of the biggest national lobby groups. We must talk about Dying with Dignity Canada, whose whole mission is to widen access to euthanasia. And they truly are a formidable political force. They go after everybody. They came after us at the Delta Hospice Society. They've gone after Catholic healthcare. They go after everybody who tries to put themselves in between euthanasia and the people. Yes, they have charitable status, so they can give everybody a tax receipt, which people appear to really enjoy and like. They have permanent paid staff members whose daily job is to figure out how to get people euthanized. You see, we just work basically on volunteer basis, right? When you got a bit of time, would you please come around and help? And they have enormous political, media, and court presence throughout the country. And they receive not only government money. See, people like Delta Hospice Society, we don't get any government money. In fact, they take our money, they take our assets. They try to shut us down. But Dying with Dignity gets huge federal grants, and they have big private donors, people like Pfizer. Why the heck would Pfizer be giving Dying with Dignity money? I'll let that sit with you for a minute. And then we have Health Canada, one of our biggest bureaucracies, who have this end of life unit, which like 18 staff federal bureaucrats working on this, and focusing on expanding access to MAiD, euthanasia, because that's what happens in this country. It's euthanasia. It's really not assisted suicide, right? Where the doctor just gives you some pills and you just go home and just take them. No, this is euthanasia. This is lethal injection. This is the majority of the deaths that happen in this country. And in fact, Health Canada now even focuses on kids between 6 and 12 with their medical assistance in dying activity book. Here it is. This is the activity book for children, where they have lovely puzzles and things that will keep children occupied as they literally desensitize them to death. So that when they cart off grandma, the kid's just like, oh, right, I guess that's normal. And of course, this whole euthanasia lobby gets stupendous support from the judiciary. Now, I don't like to criticize anyone, but I will say that, the judiciary in our country really is full of a lot of activists. Activists who do believe that, being progressive is really the way to go. And of course, we saw this with Carter. That was the Supreme Court case that basically brought in Bill C-14 that said that, somehow Canadians should be allowed to kill themselves and have doctors, commit non-culpable homicide. But, interestingly, how that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough, so it entered Trujean versus Canada. Now, this was a case in a lesser court in Quebec, where they ruled that, just killing somebody because they had a foreseeable death was discrimination. You got to kill everybody. You got to give everybody access to death, which then spurred on the next legislative step, which was Bill C-7. Bill C-7 saying that an intolerable situation was really, more freedom, that people with just an intolerable situation should be allowed to receive death. Now, I don't know about you, but there's lots of things in life which are quite intolerable. Living under a bridge, for example, in the winter in Canada is quite intolerable. So basically what I'm saying is that Bill C-7 opened up the eligibility criteria to everybody in this country being eligible to be put to death by the state. And of course, the federal government response to that was, yes, well, let's put more legislation in to just open up access, right? Well, so we can kill not only the sick and the old, but apparently it turns out we can kill the poor and the homeless and the disabled and the depressed, but we'll wait on the depressed. We'll put in a little sunset clause to that, but really they're killing the depressed anyways, because there's usually some comorbidity that they can rely on in order to allow them to be eligible. So now we have the two lanes, the first lane, right, which is foreseeable death, and then the second lane, which is the intolerable situation. And we are seeing in this country, day after day, week after week, people being put to death that only needed health care, that only needed some help. But given the state of our healthcare system, lovely public healthcare, which in the United States you probably don't have the privilege of accessing, you know, the fact that it's broke and we don't have enough doctors and we have lineups for months and months for even the simplest of procedures, you can understand quite quickly how access to death might be attractive. So of course the federal government did not do anything about the Truchon decision. They didn't appeal it to the highest court in Quebec. They certainly didn't invoke the notwithstanding clause. They just went right along with the euthanasia lobby. And since then we've seen at least not-for-profits spring up, right, with tremendous power and apparently tremendous money. The most notable, of course, is CAMAP, Canadian Association of MAiD Assessors and Providers. And this started out in BC, where I'm from, the Woke Coast. And of course, they're a national not-for-profit, and they receive big money from the government. And they're allowed to establish guidelines to educate. They're going to educate all the doctors and all the health practitioners across Canada on their obligation to provide MAiD, their obligation to bring it up. And these guidelines are actually being targeted to 96,000 doctors across the country and over 300,000 healthcare workers across the country. We've got to get everybody in line, right? Be so efficient, just like a good empire would do. And some of the all-stars on this particular board that started CAMAP, people like Dr. Green and Dr. Weeb, these are like Dr. Death Extraordinaire. These are the people who have done hundreds and hundreds of MAiD procedures. And you'll also notice from my little list, they have a lot of common with each other. A lot of these people are sitting on advisory councils for Dying with Dignity Canada. And they're involved with MAiD House. And they're involved with all kinds of these pro-euthanasia efforts. You see, now, if this was a business, right, and you saw the same people sitting on the same board of directors, we call that interlocking directorates. And we don't like that. We don't like that because that means that power is being concentrated into the hands of a few. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Empire MAiD. Power to kill is being concentrated in the hands of a few in this country to take the money, to make the guidelines, and to get everybody into line for MAiD. Of course, MAiD House, you've got MAiD House out here in Toronto. Very successful endeavor. This is just a place where they set up so that people can just go and get killed. Now, it's not enough that they'll send a MAiD team to your house, do a house call to kill you. When's the last time you got a house call from a doctor? Come and give you some health care. I would say probably 2 decades, if not more, right? But they'll send a MAiD team to your house to just off you, like no problem. So that's not enough. So you can go to this place in Toronto, which in 2022 has already killed 125 people there. And the big plan for this organization is to have a MAiD House all over Canada, every city. Every city you go, you can get killed if of course your other places to get killed are full. And we see again on this board of directors, lawyers and doctors, same kinds of lawyers and doctors that we see on the other advisory councils and board of directors. You see, but again, that's not even enough. That's just not enough access. So now we see funeral homes. Funeral homes, so you can just take yourself down there and they'll MAiD you in a room like this, and then in the next room they'll just put you in a coffin. You see how efficient it's become? And I have to tell you, one of the most egregious things about this is, you see that crucifix on the wall? Yeah, as if our Lord would be interested in that. You see, because like I am unapologetically Christian. I'm unapologetically Catholic, actually. And I'll tell you that even if you don't want to know. Actually, I found some places, but you know, so this to me is like just such a blasphemy that, you know, that they would participate in this, thinking, I guess they thought that they were doing something good here. But again, that's not enough. That's not enough. So now you can kill yourself in a national park. And perhaps that means that Tourism Canada is going to get in on the act now, right? Say, come to Canada and kill yourself in Banff or Jasper. Perhaps you want to go on a holiday, they'll just euthanize you there in the mountains. See, so like there's just no end. There's just no end to the death they want to spread across our country. And then, of course, the narrative, which ties it all together so beautifully. It's such a potent narrative. You know, things like, this is all about freedom. This is all about autonomy. Don't you want to decide how you're going to go out? Right? This is about human rights. As if giving the power to the state to kill its citizens is human rights. But when you're drinking the Kool-Aid, yeah, everything sounds possible. And of course, that this is so beautiful and it's so peaceful, right? Such a lovely experience, just have all your people around you, and then they just give you this injection. And we're going to find out a little bit more about just how beautiful and peaceful that is when my friend Kelsey comes up and talks to you about the horrors of MAiD. And thank the Lord that this is now coming out. You know, this information has always been there, but it has been hidden and buried so that people, ordinary Canadians, really don't know what they're getting into when they sign up for MAiD. The information is getting out, so that's a blessing. But okay, so now we've seen what's on the one side of the aisle, right? Empire MAiD. What's on the other side, right? What is it that might be some kind of a defense to this, right? Well, one of the biggest things we have going for us is palliative care, right? Palliative care is actually part of team life, right? This is a holistic approach. That reduces the severity of your disease or your condition. This is a 50-year medical discipline that helps people live well until their natural end. And it's from diagnosis to your natural end. This isn't just like, oh, you're going to die, so now you're going to have palliative care. No. This is from the time that you're diagnosed with a chronic illness that you should be receiving palliative care. Not only for you, but for your family members. I mean, when you're sick, right, this becomes like a community event. All the people that love you, all the people that stand with you to get you through that illness. And Canada has a lot to be proud of when we talk about palliative care. I mean, we have Dr. Balfour Mount. He's the father of palliative care. He operated out of McGill University in Quebec with the first institutionalized palliative care program. And he has, now he's an elderly man and he doesn't want to talk about this stuff anymore. I understand that, but his statements are saying that, palliative care has been able to support those who are dying without giving them a lethal dose of it's not medicine, poison, right? We don't need that. So I want you to know something very, very clearly, that regardless of what anybody's telling you, regardless of what the narrative, palliative care does not include euthanasia. Palliative care does not include MAiD, right? It does nothing to hasten death, period. In fact, our expert, Dr. Mount says, what these people are calling MAiD is not part of the practice of palliative care or the international specialty of palliative medicine. So honestly, they should be hands-off, right? Palliative care should be about health care, about taking care of our people. And back in 2017, I actually thought that we were going to maybe, get a point for our side. Empire MAiD was being created, but what about our side? Okay, here we had this bill, this federal bill that was going to, improve palliative care for Canadians. They were going to pledge $6 billion over 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, my question is, where'd the money go? Because it sure as heck didn't go into improving palliative care in this country. Because what hasn't changed is the same people who are doing palliative care, okay? It's caregivers, families and friends of people who are sick. It's private organizations like the Delta Hospice Society, right? Even though they crippled us, those are the kinds of organizations providing palliative care. But what has changed is apparently this whole definition of palliative care, Maybe that's what they spent the $6 billion, trying to convince you that we got a different definition there, a coercive makeover of what palliative care is. I think that's where they spent the money. You know, that palliative care is now between 3 to 6 months to death. No, it isn't. And that palliative care will include MAiD because, you know, that's end-of-life care. No, it doesn't. So that's what the government did with your money, just so that you know. So the Delta Hospice Society, so this is an organization that I've been involved with for about 10 years, that I came to as a cancer, on my cancer journey. And to be honest, you know, I think God works in great and mysterious ways, and I likely would never have gotten involved with this had it not been for my illness. And I went to the Delta Hospice Society, and they helped me tremendously to get through it, right? The surgeries and the chemo and the radiation and the years of adjuvant therapy to, you know, to be able to stand here in front of people and talk about this kind of stuff. So we, as a organization that I've been with for 10 years, you see, I went in one door and I really never left. So we fundraised about $8 million to provide this palliative care vision, right? To build a hospice, 10-bed hospice, to build a supportive care center, to provide programming and counseling for people going through chronic illness and also their family. And we got a 35-year land lease from one of the health authorities in our region to take that property, that wide open field, and to build buildings on there that would actually help the community. And this is our hospice. And it's called the Irene Thomas Hospice, 10-bed facility. This is when you walk in the door, this is what you see. Wide open spaces for people to congregate on one side, and that's like the little place people can eat on the other side. You know, truly very lovely and welcoming home, a residence. So there's public spaces and private spaces where you could sit privately in those times where you just needed some alone time. And these are the rooms. We had 10 of these rooms for the residents, and outside of the room, each one of these was a patio that was onto a beautiful garden. Next to it, 7,500 square foot supportive care center that we built. This is the door that I walked in that day, kind of not really knowing what to do. But I will tell you right now that for me, cancer was a blessing. I will always say that. It brought me much deeper to my faith, much deeper and closer to my family. And I came out the other end, but truly, even when you're faced with some of the most difficult circumstances in your life, you know, God has a way of making that okay. But then MAiD came into the picture. And then the government went around to all the hospices and they said, well, now you're going to have to provide MAiD. You're going to have to euthanize your patients if they ask you to. To which point we said, no, we will not. Because at that point I was the president of the organization. You can only imagine how that conversation went. But every other hospice in practically British Columbia has fallen and provides euthanasia to their hospice. But we refused. We said, no, we're a palliative care organization. Palliative care is a national treasure. It's a gift to humanity. Why would we want to start killing our patients? I said, hold on here. I said, oh, you're not going to kill your patients, then you can just get out. So we had a government, like kind of a government and private partnership where we provided this facility. We built it, we funded it, and for about $1.5 million a year, by the end of it, we provided those 10 hospice palliative care beds to the public healthcare system. So as soon as we refused to kill our patients, the government canceled the contract. At which point I said, that's fine. I think we can come up with the money. I think there's enough people in this country who'd like to have a sanctuary for the dying. So we don't need your money. So apparently that was the wrong answer. So then they said, well, then we're just going to cancel your lease. I said, well, we have 25 years left on this property. We can sit here for 25 years and provide palliative care. They said, no, we're going to cancel your lease. So the government, through the Fraser Health Authority, canceled our lease that was registered in the land titles office, and they evicted us from that land, and they gave us 30 days to get out. And they went into our hospice and they evicted our patients and told them, dying people in their bed, they're going to have to get out because we won't kill people, so we're going to shut down this operation. So they gave them about 2 months. So after that 2 months, those who had not passed away, which I think about 3 people passed away, so the 4 people that were left, they carted them off to some hospice in the region, and we would never hear from them again. So here's moving day. So we had to get out of our supportive care center. The hospice was also closed. We left everything in the hospice, all the beds, all the furniture. We left it. We said, well, perhaps somebody can use that. So they closed us down, they kicked us out. We had to find 2 huge storage containers to put all our stuff in until we could liquidate it, sell it. 7,500 square feet worth of office equipment and desks and like you can imagine, right? So we went. They kicked us out. And then when they were finished with us, 2 weeks later, they reopened our hospice under the operation of the Fraser Health Authority, and they do provide MAiD there. So it was down for 2 weeks. They took our stuff, and then they reopened the place. And I know now people who have been MAIDed there in a place where that was never the intention. The intention was always to care for people until their natural end. So you see, they won, I suppose. They took our stuff. And then that wasn't enough, of course, because they still had the Catholics. They got to take down the Catholics because they also refused to kill people. So Catholic health care then became the target because they have a faith-based exemption, British Columbia. So here's Providence Healthcare. They operate St. Paul's Hospital, and they refused to MAiD their patients there. So the government went after them, and eventually they had to agree to a workaround. And the workaround is that they will discharge the patient from Providence. They will go down the hall, and they will readmit them under Coastal Health, and they'll take them into this room, or this, which I call the slaughterhouse, and that's where they'll do the MAiD. And of course, British Columbia is not the only province. Quebec, the same thing is happening. They're forcing palliative care facilities to kill their patients. And they're actually even going after Catholic health care in Quebec to kill their patients. So we know, look, we know what we face. We have the understanding, we have the information. We know that as far as we're concerned, anybody can get MAIDed. This is a beautiful woman who's pro-life Catholic, and she got MAIDed. How does that happen? It's because we're all vulnerable at this point in this country. And we truly need to wake up. So we decided, all right, they took our stuff for the moment, but they didn't take our organization. And actually, we still have assets. So our organization, with all of our experience of working on the front line against activists and government, we believe there's something we can do. So the first thing we did was we went to a lawyer and we got what we call a Do Not Euthanize Advance Directive, made for every province in Canada. Now, this is guerrilla warfare at this point, because we know we don't have an army to go up against their army, so we're going to get up in the trees. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to start trying to make some effect. So the Do Not Euthanize Advance Directive is a legal document which protects the holder against attempts to have their lives terminated unnaturally. We made one for every province, and it's free to you. And I brought a pile over here on this corner table here, the Do Not Euthanize for Ontario, and I ask you to please take a copy. Please fill it out. Get it witnessed by 2 witnesses. It doesn't have to be a lawyer or a notary. It can be just 2 people. We recommend probably not family members, make them arm's length, but sign it and keep it. Hold on here. And that's one thing we can do, so that you can present that. You present that to your doctor if you end up in the hospital. It says, I will not be euthanized. I have no interest in MAiD. Don't talk to me about MAiD. Don't make unilateral decisions to cut off my oxygen and my food and my hydration because I won't accept your MAiD, right? This is the first thing that we can do. The second thing that we have done is we've created a national registry. And everybody who has signed one of those DNEs across the country, and we have given out thousands of them to Canadian citizens across the country. Now, we want you to take our wallet card. We'll put your name on a national registry. We'll give you a number. We've created this laminated, personalized, customized, do not euthanize advance directive card. It basically says, I require health care, not MAiD. I've signed a do not euthanize advance directive, right? We put, this may actually speak for your life if it's in your wallet and you can't talk, right? You end up in the emergency or wherever. They can call us, our toll-free number's on here, and we'll tell them exactly what that is, that you signed, and that they better not touch you, they better give you health care. Because we have in there that, you know, your representative will sue them if you end up dead from MAiD. So I ask you to take a DNE. Please take it with you, sign it. Put your name down if you'd like to have a card. We'll put it in the mail for you. Laminated, this will last for years. Doesn't matter if it gets wet. Okay, and the next thing we've done is we've created a Guardian Angels program. And Betty Miller is sitting here today to the original Guardian Angels program, saying thank you so much for coming, in Ontario. So basically what we've done is said, I love your program. We're going to have a national Guardian Angels program, right? So we are going to get healthcare advocates. We'll even hire people to be advocates. We'll take volunteers and we'll train them on how to stand with you when you end up in the healthcare system. Because in this point in time, it's the buddy system. You don't go in there alone. Okay, you have to go to the hospital, you take someone. If you're in the hospital, you're in some kind of long-term care facility, you end up in a hospice, you don't sit there alone. And sometimes your loved ones don't have the time to be there with you, right? But you need people beside you to say, this person wants health care, this person's not interested in being mated. Thank you very much, but no thank you. So we're gonna help you with that, right? We're there to make sure you get health care. We're there to make sure they don't ask you 6 and 7 times, are you ready for your MAiD yet? Because that's what's happening on the front lines right now. And if you would like to become a guardian angel, I'll give you some information in a minute about how you can do that. And we will train you. And we will walk with you and support you as you're supporting people. And we'll put you on our list, and anybody in your area that needs somebody to stand with you, because in this moment we have to walk our faith. It's not enough to say we're Christians, right? We must walk our faith. We must stand with our people and protect them from an empire, which really just wants to see them dead, right? It wants to come after the unborn, wants to come after people who are vulnerable in this country, and it's really only up to us. And we need you. And we need your pets too, okay? I always bring my dog with me whenever I go to see people, because this is like such a wonderful and beautiful experience to have another little creature. It makes people really happy. So we'll take them too, and we'll train you. Don't be intimidated by this idea that I don't know what to do or what to say as standing up against a doctor or a nurse in a white coat, right? They're so intimidating. Well, they are, except when they're not anymore, right? When you have information. Say, no. And we have nurses that will help you, and they'll say, what's the person's problem? What kind of health care should they be getting? What are the protocols around this kind of, condition? And then you'll go and you'll say that they're not getting that. Well, that's what we ask for, right? All we ask for is health care that we've been paying for through our taxes in this country for some of you for 80, 90 years, right? Now it's time for us to collect. We paid for it, now we want it. But ultimately, our vision again is to have a hospice again, is to have a sanctuary. I will no longer call it hospice. I call it hospice sanctuary, because they have taken that word and they have destroyed it with their euthanasia and their MAiD and their progressivism and their pro-aggressivism. So we need sanctuary for the dying, a sanctuary for the sick. And I don't know how that will happen in this country, but I have faith that it will happen. So God will make a way that we will get sanctuary again. And we'll be the first ones in line to provide sanctuary. We have assets. All we need is a government to allow it. All we need is freedom to allow people to be able to take care of other people. But we must know that we have a secret weapon that Empire MAiD does not have, and that is our Lord. We must have faith, and we must pray that we will be able to have this kind of a place dotted across this country, sanctuaries across this country, that we will be able to serve our people. That's the only way that I think we're going to have success. So I want you to know that we are Team Life, each one of us. And we'll tell 2 friends, and they'll tell 2 friends, and so on and so on. This is how it grows. And this is our email address, deltahospicesociety.org. I want you to go on there, please, and get a DNE. Tell your friends about it. Get a wallet card. Take a look at our Guardian Angels program. If you have questions or you want to talk about a situation where your loved one is not getting health care, I want you to call me, 1-800. I'm there every day. Call me, we'll have a discussion, we'll figure out what we can do. Because we have warriors across this country that are not willing to give up our freedom so easily. We're on the front line. We'll stand up against we'll stand up against the Leviathan. We have no fear. We have no fear. We are bulletproof when it comes to that. So please, I want to thank you so much for coming here today. I want to thank Jackie for having me. I want to thank you for listening to me. Please pick up your DNEs, our website, join us, call us. God bless you. God bless Canada. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Questions?
So I can personally vouch for palliative care. 13 years ago, my wife passed away. It was the worst of times, and it was the best of times. And palliative care made it happen here in London. So thank you so much. Wonderful.
Have you questions? Do we have a little bit of time for questions and answers?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you for this so much. Thank you.
I got it in there early.
Okay, don't forget. So if you have any questions, we got a little bit of time. Yes? 15. Okay, great. If you have any questions, I'll give you the mic. The floor is yours.
Why don't you take this one? I'll run around with the mic.
All right, sure. Thank you. Cheers.
I have a sort of an observation I'd like to hear your comments about it. Both with the issue of abortion and with MAiD, what seems to be running through all of this is a very strange notion that we now have about health, that health means avoiding any kind of suffering at all. Suffering is bad. It is to be avoided. It's not a problem you work through. Any difficulty in life, you escape it. And that seems to be the message. I mean, it's totally the antithesis of what it's totally against what our faith is about as well. I'm just wondering if you could...
No, I agree, right? That's the generations that we have, the society we have. It's no pain, right? Everything's new, everything's fabulous all the time. And I agree with you. I think nobody wants to do really any hard work. Nobody wants to suffer. But I mean, suffering is a human condition, right? This is what makes us human. This is what makes us real people, and be able to have compassion for one another. It's because you say, I've been there, right? Or maybe I haven't walked the road you've walked, but I've been close enough, I understand you. And it gives us also a gift to help those people that are suffering, right? It brings out our humanity to help those. Without that, what are we? Maybe that's what they're trying, right? They're trying to make us like transhuman, perhaps, where we're not even human beings anymore. But other people's sufferings, it makes us human as well.
Hi, Angelina. Thank you very much for your work, for your perseverance. I have a question and an idea I want to float. The question is there any chance of your getting back your hospice if the BC Conservatives are elected in the next election? Is that at all a possibility? And the idea I want to float before you respond is just, and this is, I guess, also common for the people in the room from Ontario, possibility of witnessing outside of the MAiD house in Toronto? And there's not a bubble zone there.
Not yet, yeah, go for it. You know what, I know for sure we won't if the NDP get reelected, that's for sure. I might end up in jail if they get reelected. I'm not kidding. The gulag, I call it. But I have hope. I have hope for the BC Conservatives. I see that they're kind of going, you know, there's sort of this conservative kind of going more mainstream. Now they're getting popular. I would hope that once upon a time they actually had a resolution, they had a policy in their party platform about us, the Delta Hospice Society, how they did not agree with how we were treated, that we should be allowed to have a palliative care organization and a facility that does not participate in MAiD. So at one point they were on the right track. I'm hopeful that at the very least they would just leave us alone. We would just be allowed to have freedom. Like, we're not even asking for government money. To be honest, I never want to have anything to do with government money again. Everything that we do must be privately funded. It must be on private land, because I would never again take the chance that, you know, getting involved with the government could, because it might turn very bad. So if they would just allow us to have freedom, that's all I ask.
Hi, Angelina. Thank you so much for this. I have to tell you that you are one of my current day personal heroes, you and Alex Schattenberg. I had the privilege of joining your society a couple of years ago, especially around the time when a pro-life board was trying to take over the hospice. And I think it would be wonderful if you told our folks here who are unaware of that, a bit about that. And to you people here today, I encourage you all to become members of the Delta Hospice Society. At $10 a year, it is a bargain and way better in the long run than even the Shoppers Optimum card.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. You know, when we started this, when they came after us, we had 200 members of the Delta Hospice Society. We're a little community outside Vancouver with the hospice and a palliative care program. And by the end of this, like, you know, thanks be to God, we had 8,000 pro-life members of our society, right? And the backstory to that was when we refused to provide euthanasia in the hospice, we didn't just have the government come after us, we had the euthanasia activists, we had Dying with Dignity come after us. They had us right in their crosshairs, and they were gonna do away with us and people like me because, you know, we gotta be silenced. And so they literally went door to door in my community selling memberships to the Delta Hospice Society, looking for people in favor of MAiD. They were gonna sell memberships, and then they were gonna take over our organization. They were going to throw out the board of directors. They were going to advocate for MAiD, use the assets we had for advocating for MAiD and get MAiD into the hospice. And so it literally became you know, a good versus evil. We're the good ones, by the way, over the organization. And it was a battle of my life because they literally made my life hell. They targeted me personally. They egged my house, they knocked on my door in the middle of the night, they wanted a full-on social media campaign to destroy me. And I was like, my priest told me, oh, good for you, that's good. And I was like, what? Because I was really mad. He goes, no, it's all good. Okay, so let it be. And so I said, okay, well, if you're gonna go house to house to sell memberships and you're gonna go nationwide to all your Dying with Dignity people who support you to try to sell memberships to overthrow, I was a president, and we had a pro-life board. That's what we had, right? Because we were palliative care. We wouldn't do MAiD, so therefore we're pro-life. Okay, good. So they got their own slate of electors, and then they tried to sell memberships to come to the AGM to overthrow us. So I said, well, if you could do it, then we can do it. So I literally went out to the country to every pro-life organization, which is how you probably know us, and said, would you buy membership to the Delta Hospice Society? Would you become, and would you come and defend us? And would you, and absolutely. And that is the mobilization of pro-life nation, right there. You bought memberships, you came to the AGM, and we just trounced them. We won 75% to 25%, and we held on to our organization. And then they're really mad, but that's fine. They couldn't do anything about it because then we changed the constitution. Well, they took us to court. I forgot that part. They took us to court because they wanted to flood us with like 4,000 members who were, I call them the death squad. They wanted to push 4,000 members of the death squad into our organization to take over. So we said, no, you can't be a member. So they took us to court. And the judge said, you have to allow them to be a member. Right, we don't care why. You don't have enough information in your constitution, although you say palliative care, that doesn't mean anything to me, so says the judge. So they're allowed to be members. We had to admit all these people, but thank the Lord we had like twice as many people as well to admit, so it was fine. But so we lost the court case, and then we took it to the highest court in British Columbia, that the courts would push these people into our organization. And the highest court of British Columbia said, that's fine, they can do that. So we lost again. And so they said, well, we're going to go to the Supreme Court of Canada. That's what we're going to do. And of course, the Supreme Court of Canada refused to hear the case, right? So any private organization out there must know you must protect yourself. You must have a constitution and bylaws which is so specific about your members, or else anybody can come take it over. So we won, we changed our constitution, and we took all the wording that the judges said we should have had, and we put it in there. And so therefore, that's how we saved our organization. But it took 2 years. It took a national mobilization of pro-life people, and it cost us about $150,000.
Any more questions? Yeah. Oh yeah, you were next. Sorry.
Angelina, one of the slides showed about death tourism at the national parks. What's that all about?
Yep. So, are you going to talk about this, Kelsey?
We can touch it.
Okay. So yes, you can apply to get MAiD in a national park, and that's fine now. So beautiful place. To me, I'm thinking it's for tourists, right? People are going to come from other places around the world, and we're going to kill them here. And we're going to kill, because Canada is a beautiful country, there's no question, right? There's beautiful places, and might be on their bucket list, I want to die someplace beautiful, right? Well, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So even if those people can't be killed in their own countries, they'll come here, and we'll be pretty much are the killing capital, I think, anyways, of the world. We kill our own citizens, and we'll even kill anybody who wants to be killed.
Are there doctors in British Columbia who support Delta Hospice, who are for palliative care or willing to stand up, or are they all coward and now became MAiD doctors?
No, we have Physicians for Life. There's an organization called Physicians for Life, but the problem is that we're finding they're getting, pro-life doctors it's very difficult for them. They're getting pushed out. They're getting pushed out. They're being forced to have effective referral. So if they won't do it, they must send their patient to somebody who will kill them. So, palliative care physicians that have stood with us, like Dr. Neil Hilliard, who was the palliative care doctor at the Fraser Health Authority, which is the health authority in my region, where they pushed MAiD and he resigned, right? So he wouldn't do it. There's been doctors who've resigned from hospices because they refuse to kill people. But the problem is they're raising up the new generation to think that this is fine, this is what you should be doing as a doctor. You got people like CAMAP teaching them the guidelines, your obligations to kill. They're teaching nurses how to do MAiD. So we have like a structure, like an infrastructure that's being built to push out the good guys, right? And to teach these other people how to do it, that they have to do it. And this is a real concern. This is the kind of thing that we saw in World War II. Like I said, this is not new, right? With the T4 programs right? I won't say anything else. But so what I'm saying is that we need to have a grassroots, full-on, movement You need to be individually doing something, protecting yourself, protecting your loved ones. This is all about guerrilla warfare at this point, is what I think.
I want to make a comment about that. People who follow the news have heard of MAiD. Those who are more inquisitive have learned what it really is. They're aware of it. But I'd say the majority of Catholics that go to church every Sunday are totally ignorant of it. And they think being passive and it doesn't affect me is the way to live. Well,
Right.
I say we here who are witnesses today to your testimony have to get off our butts, personally, but not just one. Community makes a difference. And we have to talk to our friends in our churches and our pastors, explain this, and if we believe in God, we have to start taking action in the way of informing and getting the population to be against us, because right now it's a steamroller and we're getting crushed in ignorance.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know what, and I will say, as a Catholic, do not forget your identity and your heritage. Okay, they've been really good at that, about trying to make us forget who we are. I'm a Catholic, I'm unapologetically Catholic. My favorite saint is Joan of Arc. And she said, forward boldly, right? Let's not forget who we are.
Oh, I was just going to, a lot of people may have missed when Jackie pointed out this morning that there's a movement to compost bodies now. And so we'd be afraid that someday there'll be advertising you can have yourself killed in one of the national parks and composted in a beautiful site. So just a fair warning.
Okay, so is that, yeah? I want to say I got you all warmed up for my friend. Yeah, she's gonna knock your socks off, okay? So thank you again. Cheers.